Hi, and welcome to our channel. This is a brand new project between Dani and myself. My name is Carrie, and that's Dani. Welcome to our channel, Conversations with Carrie and Dani. Um, Basically, I think the title of the channel really shows what it's all about. It's just having conversations, mostly with other women about their background, maybe some of their stories, focusing specifically on experiences in and out of the Seventh-day Adventist denomination. So, Dani, if you want to start first and just kind of tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, what you're up to, what you have been up to, and what your plan is or why we're doing this project.
Hi, I'm Danny, like Carrie said, and I'll keep this as short as I can because as it goes on, you'll get to hear more of my story in pieces. I want to start really with why this is important to me, this project. And the easiest way to explain that is to tell you a short story. I grew up without a lot of questions, I don't think. I was fairly settled for a long time. And there was, I guess I didn't have a lot of questions.
And you grew up in the Adventist church, correct?
I did. So I grew up thinking that I didn't need a lot of questions. I grew up thinking that I knew most of what I needed to know to get through life. I want a safe space for females to ask questions. Anyone, really.
Hmm.
And when you do ask a question, I want there to be a safe place where it's okay to not have an answer. I don't have answers to all my questions. And for a long time, I felt that I needed to. And the journey to being okay with not knowing and knowing that
Yes.
God still loves me has been a really long one and an important one. Earlier this year, I was thinking about, and I come to a realization that I grew up in a high demand religion. And this will shock some people, but I was just sort of sitting around the edge of that word and, the word that no one likes to say about how they grew up. Because I
Hmm.
did grow up a little differently. Everyone's got their own style of, even in a set religion, everyone's got their own version of it. And I was just testing it out. And I'd been thinking about this word for a long time. And I thought, I can't say it. I can't say it. And I went out, I thought I'd test it on a friend that I don't know so well. So I had lunch with a girlfriend that's a fairly new friend. And about halfway through, I got all prepared. And I'm sure as women, you all do this. You think about what you're going to say, and you look for that casual moment to just slide it into the conversation, so it's not super noticeable. And I was so nervous. And finally, I said it. I said to my girlfriend, I didn't even know if she was a Christian. And I said, um, you know, I've been wondering lately. I don't know much about cults, and I'm wondering if I grew up in one. And it was out, and my heart rate was going boom, boom, boom. And she went, me too. I definitely did. And off she went with her story. And she talked for quite a long time. And for me, it was a relief to not have to talk. And it was an amazing moment. And so, my hope and dream for the channel is that there'll be moments like that for everybody where you can relax because it's like you're not unusual, you're not alone. So many experiences are the same for all of us. I believe that there's so many things we never talk about. And if we did, we'd discover that everybody's thought them, had them, got their own version of them.
Yeah.
And what I just want to say too that while a lot of what I say is aimed at females, if you're a bloke that just wants to, or a male that wants to just understand more of what might run through your sweetheart's mind, tune in and have a listen because we are so different.
Hmm.
So my background started off in horse training, and it's a story I'll get into at a later date. But from horse training, I found that I was running treks up in the mountains, and it was amazing. And people would share their stories. I can remember the first time I sat on the top of a hill with a whole family, and one of the children sat next to me and said, "My parents are divorced."
Hmm.
And I'm thinking, okay, what am I supposed to do with that information? And then her dad came and sat on the other side and said, "Do you mind if I ask you a question?" I'm like, "Yeah, give it a go." And her dad said, "How do you know if you actually love someone?" And I was like, whoa. And over the course of running these horse treks and riding up the middle of creeks and stopping at the top of beautiful mountain views, people just talked and asked about everything. Everything from childhood physical abuse to relations, just all sorts of things. And I really wanted a way to honor all their stories. I didn't want to live never knowing what to say.
Mm-hmm.
And so I actually went and studied to be a counselor.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there, I did a diploma in counseling. And from there, I went on and did a bachelor's degree. I spent about just over 15 years working full time as a therapist and worked in everything from school counseling to trauma therapy to a government trial program for addictions. That was amazing. It was a new program where we actually went into people's homes if they couldn't leave the house because their children meant that they couldn't go into some sort of a program. And then I finished up, I did 3 years running group therapy in a men's prison. That was
Wow.
incredible. It gave me
Mm-hmm.
a really great insight into the mind of men. Um, and I have to say, I've got some old-fashioned ideas, I think, in some ways, but also some that people will think are new and radical.
Mm-hmm.
But I think there's nothing sadder in this life than a broken man or a
Yeah.
broken female, but a broken man just seems to get me. I believe that God created them to be these amazing, glorious creatures, and when they don't live up to the potential of what they can be, there's just something sad about it that affects the whole family. Um, and I really loved working in the prison with the men
Mm-hmm.
because to bring about change in their life gets down to my real passion, which is to bring about change in the lives of everybody they touch, their
Mm-hmm.
children, the people they love, so they can love them better. And I like to see happier females. So
Interesting.
I'm currently retired. I'm hoping that you're all thinking, wow, she looks way too young to retire. That would make me very happy. And the truth is, I haven't been counseling now or working in the field for about coming up 5 years. I retired for medical health reasons.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it's something we might even get into in a later program.
Sure.
My thought as a point of getting older and getting to those words that no female likes to think about or say, so those perimenopause words and things, my thyroid had a little crisis
Mm-hmm.
and left me with not enough energy really to do what I used to do. So the
Yeah.
time out has been incredible. And in the time out of working, I got excited, and that's part of why I'm here. Because in that time out, I had energy to ask questions, to think, to wonder about things, and to do crazy things like pick up free jeans at the thrift store and turn them into handbags
Fun.
and things like that. So that's how
Yeah.
I ended up here. But I know your story's totally different.
Oh, absolutely different. And of course, you can probably hear by Danny's accent that she's from New Zealand, and I'm from the smack dab in the middle of the US, and grew up really close to one of the big Adventist ghettos near one of our universities. Uh, was born in the church. Both my parents are dad's I'm third generation on both sides. You know how we always talk about our pedigree, I guess. And went to Adventist grade school, Adventist high school, was a day academy. I didn't have to board there. I was able to live at home because there was a school close to my parents. And so I was able to stay at home and do that. Um,
Nice.
I the joke around there is because it's near the seminary, so anybody who knows where who knows the Adventist education system knows where I grew up, is stay away from those seminarians, you know, when you're in college as a female because they're desperate for a wife. And so I met a seminarian just as I was finishing up. I am a dental hygienist by profession, only worked fortunate enough to only work 2 days a week. So I have time to do little projects like this, which is amazing. Um, and just as I was finishing up college, my now husband was finishing up his seminary degree. We uh, so I became a pastor's wife, and my husband worked for our denomination for almost 20 years, about 15 as a pastor, 5 years in our education system as a business administrator. He does have a bachelor's degree in business, and so now he's no longer working for our denomination. He was able to find a job in the private sector, so we're able to get away. I left the church more. A lot of it started with church hurt, and I know a lot of people say, oh, most Adventists who leave solely because they had their feelings hurt
Yeah.
or something happened, right? I will admit that that was why we started to distance ourselves from attendance because of some things that happened, and we'll probably talk about those again in a later video. But that's not important to right now. Um, and of course, when COVID hit, we attendance dropped further, spent more time at home, not going to church, watching documentaries, seeing a lot of information regarding other high demand religions. You know, I know the C word we all talk about. Um, and just some wheels started to turn in my head, some commonalities that I hadn't seen before, I wasn't even aware of, because as a general rule, as Adventists, we kind of stay in our own little insular circle. And
Yeah.
so there's not a lot of conversations with people who believe differently because we had the truth, you know. So I mean, I was into it. I was, you know, pastor's wife. I was a pathfinder. I started a couple different pathfinder clubs, did all of these things. Um, but as I started doing a little bit more research, learning about Ellen White and a lot of the things that I had not been aware of, I began to feel betrayed by my church because I felt that there was a lot of important information that was hidden from me as a kid,
Yep.
you know? So uh, I went from reading, I dug up a couple of books. I had this book in my home growing up. I don't know if you ever saw this one.
No, no, that's a new one
Stories
for
of
me.
Little Ellen. So I'll maybe I can text you pictures of it or something, but it's the little storybook, you know, from the 50s, you know, talks about the first missionary and different things, stories about. I remember sitting on the floor reading this when I was a kid, you know. So this was the image of Ellen that I got portrayed as a child. Never questioned it. And then through my research, I stumbled across this book and everything changed. You read this one, Danny?
What's the title at the top?
That's
So,
the
oh,
psychobiography, the Steve Daly book.
yes, that
Yeah.
I was horrified, but actually, it so much of it made sense. It was incredible.
Mm-hmm.
It
Yeah.
just stretched my mind beyond a place that it had ever been before. But I could just, the truth has a ring about it, and it was incredible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And having worked in the therapy field, what he said, I kept thinking, if I saw that if, in a client, I'd recognize that. How did I not recognize it in the stories of her? But of course,
Because
I
we
didn't because I
were we
wasn't
were only
looking.
given the good ones, you know. And people will argue, and I'm sure we'll get comments or something that, oh, but she said some good things, she wrote some beautiful words. Well, sure she did.
Yeah,
Everybody said and did great things, you know, just because, you know, but when you put her up as a prophet, you know, you've got to take account of the bad stuff too
absolutely.
and not ignore it. But yeah, so I don't know. Um,
Interesting. I once you started talking, I realized all the things that I could have said but didn't say because I was
yeah,
focused on more that whole connection thing.
sure.
But I only found out recently through this whole research thing that my granny's grandma, so a bit, my mum's great grandma, I'm trying to work how far back it went, was actually an Adventist missionary. And she went to Tasmania, in the bottom, originally from Australia, even though I live
Yep.
in the bottom of New Zealand. And so she went to Tasmania, the little island on the bottom of Australia. And when she was down there, she met a Catholic guy. And so she went from being an Adventist missionary to unmarried and pregnant to a really cute Catholic guy. And she went on then to have, I think, 7 or 8 children, didn't get into the church at all, and there was not much going on. And then when she died, my mum's mum decided that in honor of her, instead of going to the Catholic church, they would actually go and attend an Adventist church to find out what it was that she had believed because they realized they hadn't taken any notice of it. And so lucky someone in our family keeps a lot of this history. And it was quite fascinating actually to find out how things are
Hmm.
and where they came from. And my mind's been blown to realize how much of the trauma I grew up with actually has impacted on my thyroid when I've started looking into health issues this last year or last 2 years has been a huge growing learning curve. Learning
Hmm.
about the special diet I grew up with and the good and the not so good sides of that and how that's impacted the health issues I have as an adult was mind blowing.
Hmm.
So
And,
I'm really hoping at some point that as we get around to chatting about some more of these things, that I'm hoping other people will just think, wow, I'm not the only one.
and
I
I
really want
think,
to encourage, so I
yeah,
just want to encourage anybody listening. We're going to get into some deeper issues and we'll share it from our stories. I'm not a theologian. I'm not a theologian, but
me
I can
neither.
tell you what I know because I've lived through it.
Hmm.
And if you've got questions or things that you've always wondered about, just drop a comment below. If you've had a Me Too moment already, just share it and let us know
Hmm.
that one, you understand, and we're not the only one, and there's more out there because that's what we want to know. And we've had that experience. If you've got a question, even if you post it anonymously, just ask.
Absolutely. And we have an email address. Well, I think that's in our description. I'll make sure it's easy to find that you can email, and both Danny and
Yeah.
I have access to that email. And then if you want to share your story or ask questions and but you want to stay anonymous to the general public, we'll make sure that we can address those in a way that keeps your identity secret. I mean, it sounds really weird that leaving a Christian denomination, you want to keep things secret. But I know that when my husband and I first made the very difficult decision to leave, we were really nervous to tell people. I know there's a lot of people out there that maybe are still in, don't have any intention on leaving, but yet they have questions, but they don't feel like there's anybody they can ask those questions to. We'd certainly be happy to try to help answer those, or for sure lead you to, if they're theology questions. I don't know how much we're going to be able to help you because that's not our deal, but we'll be able to send you to some very good resources to help with that for sure.
If there is a theology question, I can promise you there's a really high chance that I'm going to say nothing other than, wow, that's a big question. I'm so glad you're pondering it. I have that question too.
Yep. Yep.
So I just want to clarify that even though I've worked as a therapist, I'm not here to offer free therapy. I am just here because one of the things I learned is it's so important that people feel seen. It's so
Hmm.
important to feel understood. It's so important to feel I'm not the only one that has these questions.
Hmm.
Um,
And I don't
and I
think anything
believe
you
that,
would share with us would shock either Danny or myself. With her being a therapist, I was a pastor's wife for a long time and heard a lot of stuff, man, a lot of things.
well, pastors' wives are expected to be therapists. They just don't get the formal training.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. A lot of crazy things we heard and saw and tried to help people with, but pastors aren't necessarily trained to do that stuff either. That's for sure.
No, I learned that the hard way. I
Hmm.
feel after going and studying and stuff, I feel so sorry now for some of the trauma and the traumatic stories I lived through as a child that I took to our pastors thinking that they would have the answers to tell me how to get through. And at the time, I didn't know because I grew up in a system where the pastors are they're God's representative on earth, and if I don't understand or if there's terrible, unspeakable things going on at home, that there's your safe place. You go to your pastor. And then in my later and through my teen years, I guess I was angry that there was no help and no protection. And when I finally went to study as an adult, I realized that they did the best they could with the resources and training they had, which was little to nothing.
Yeah, I mean, my husband has an MDiv, Master's of Divinity, and I think he had 1 or 2 semesters of a single class in pastoral counseling.
No, that's tough.
That's it. And that's if you have an MDiv. I'm not sure what the theology majors come, because he has a bachelor's in business. He doesn't have a theology bachelor's.
Yeah.
but I don't know what kind of training they get for pastoral counseling, but you would hope that they would have a list of qualified counselors that they could send people to. But
Yeah.
if they're humble enough to realize they can't help,
That's a whole nother
that's a
topic.
whole nother ball of wax. We ain't got time to get into that right now.
No, I'm sure there's a whole pile of females out there all with thoughts about humility and males, but hey, look, we won't start it. Not even
No,
as a joke.
we're not
Um,
gonna go there. Um, but anything else that you wanted to say in our quick?
well, I was just going to say that I feel like I've said enough.
Yeah.
Moving forward, I just want to reiterate again, if you've got thoughts, questions, or even just I feel like this sometimes, and you want to know if we've ever experienced something similar, be it, I don't know, waking up in the middle of the night to pre-planning your conversations to, oh, maybe you've hit 50 and you're hotter than you used to be. There's no topic is untouchable. And
Nope.
moving forward, I want to encourage you all. Find a quiet, safe place to listen. Make yourself a hot cuppa and come along for the ride because I'm expecting to
Hmm.
have some fun with some of these discussions. And I've got some things that I haven't even shared with Carrie because we have only met fairly recently. And there's things I haven't shared with her because when I do share them, I want to do it live. So we can have real reactions, not
Hmm.
pre-planned things. So you can see that we're real. We don't wear makeup. We have wrinkles.
Yeah,
My waistline doesn't
we're
look
not
like
gonna
it
be
used
using
to.
filters,
It's hay fever season. I'm going to blink and squint and sneeze a little.
right? Yep.
Welcome to real life. Please come and do it with us.
And let's embrace our imperfections. One of my favorite mugs, world's okayest mom. World's best is way too much pressure. The perfectionism has got to go. Not saying we don't need to
Uh,
do our best, but we don't need to be perfect. So
I love that. Did one of your kids give you that? That's fabulous. What did you?
actually a neighbor gave that to me. Maybe she'll see the video and say, "Oh, yeah, that was her." So when my husband
Oh,
was
that's
working in education.
so
So
my special ladies book club group. I brought this for my first one because my special ladies book club group gave me my little llama. So I thought for my first video ever, I would bring them along so I'd be a little less nervous.
that's true. All right, we will post the email address in the up on the comments or description or something. So if anybody has any comments or questions, we're hoping to at least weekly get something out to you guys. So we're gonna go ahead and stop the recording now, and you
Yeah.
guys reach out to us if you have any questions or
So with just a question for emailing questions or things, please only really for people that have a real reason to keep things anonymous.
yeah,
Otherwise, please put your questions and comments below. Otherwise, everyone else coming to listen, because this video will get, over time, hopefully will grow, but everyone else coming to listen, if they can see your comments, then they
yes,
don't just get,
absolutely.
oh, wow, Carrie's been through that and Dani understands that. She's been through it too. They
Yeah,
can look through the comments and go, wow, there's 15 other people here. I'm not the only one. And that's
100%.
always such a
100%.
special moment.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yep.
Well, I'm happy to say
All
bye.
right, we'll say bye. We will talk to you late guys later.